Alright, so the Terry patch just dropped, and honestly, for something that's supposed to be just a minor drop, Terry came out with some nice additions, so let's get into it. So the biggest one by far is now his stand fierce punch, so his hard punch, is +1 on block. And the reason this is amazing for him is prior to this, every single one of his normals was minus, including his stand fierce punch, which was -1. But now that it's +1, you actually have a normal where you can pester them and it's your turn again because you can hit them with a jab before they can hit you. And this move does so much drive bar damage, like it takes half a bar of drive away from your opponent. So the fact that it's +1 now is a big advantage. The other big thing now is because it's +1 on block, that means on drive rush, it's +5 on block, which means you can set up more frame traps with your crouch medium punch. And if you have your opponent, you know, they like to mash grab or take their turn back with normals. Now, because it's +5, I can mash this again and beat the throw or beat another move that they want to do just because that extra, you know, +2 frames makes a big advantage over there. So this is a big buff for Terry, and honestly, it was a shame they didn't give him a plus normal before, but he's got one now and we got to run with it. So the other buff that they gave him in theory is that his crouch medium punch now has less pushback. And the reason that this is important, that was cited in the change list, is because one of his main combos was doing a punish counter into a power charge like that. So now if you do the max range, it still won't work, but you can actually do it a lot closer than you could do before and it'll hit, like that situation over there. So this wasn't always hitting before, but in theory it should be more consistent now. You still have to be in the right range to do it, like that will get you clipped out. But now you can actually pester your opponents by going back and forth and then still getting it off. So we got to test it out more, but it's better than nothing. So the other change that excites me is that they buffed Terry's medium punch power wave. So this is his fast version. The issue with this before, even though it's really fast, its startup isn't as fast as other Fireball characters. So it comes out in 16 frames. And the issue with this was because it was slower and his hurt box was a bit extended, characters like Ryu and Guile and Akuma, they would chuck fireballs and clip you out of your fireballs before this would even come out. So it looks something like this. You see how it's hitting me out of the fireball? But now that the hurt box is shorter, in theory, I should have more time to get fireballs off like that. Like that sequence of 3 that you just saw right now, I don't think this was as consistent or possible before. So now at least gives Terry another option to fight these pesky fireball characters and give you a chance to fight back in the zoning game. So if this works, and we got to test it out more, this could be a big boon. Now, one thing that might be a nerf that people might have to, you know, look into is that his power round wave is now 51 frames. Before it used to be 53 frames, so it's 2 frames shorter in overall animation time. And unless people figure out new setups, the one issue with this was it used to lead into one of Terry's very safe options in terms of having a safe jump. So this option over here used to be a perfect +42. Now that it's +44, the issue with this is it won't be a perfect frame jump. You're going to actually have to time it. So this is actually a nerf to that corner pressure. But again, the patch is early. If people figure out new setups for this to get different types of safe jumps or different types of setups altogether, it might be a buff, but right now, that might be a low-key nerf. So time will tell. On the flip side, this standard Terry setup is now, instead of going to be something like -3, can be upwards of +5. So depending on how this shapes up, there might be new setups available, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. So I'm obviously not smart enough to put the thought into that right now. It's very late and I'm tired, but who knows. And next up, both of his medium kick version and hard kick version of Crackshoots got some changes as well. First off, the medium version is now +3 on hit. Before it was +1. So this is still good, you know, if you want to really take your turn back. Now you can add a crouch medium punch after and it'll still be your turn. The main issue here is now on counter hit, it's a hard knockdown. And I know in theory that sounds like it should be good, which is good. You always want a hard knockdown if you can get it. But because it was +3, if it stayed counter hit, that means in theory this would have been +5 on counter hit. which means you could have extended with a jab or a stand light kick to lead into combo options. So you'll take the hard knockdown if you can get it, but there was potential for more if it actually stayed a counter hit. The other thing is, on block now, it does more damage to your opponent's chip. So this is good, you know, if you want to pester them with it. It's always good to take more damage on drive bar, because as we know, drive bar is just as important as your health. Then the final big change, they made the input more strict to get the power geyser. And I know on paper this looks like this will be a nerf, but the real reason they did this is because a lot of players, including top level players, when they were buffering, you know, walking back and forth, they were playing footsies, when they wanted to get a burning knuckle, they would still have the input buffer for like quarter circle motions, and then they would get the power geyser instead. Very similar to in Marissa players just to get the level 1 super instead of the Superman punch. It's the exact same concept. So they made this timing tighter so you won't get as many issues when you want your burning knuckle. So that's a quick recap of the patch updates for Terry. Hopefully people are in the lab figuring out all the good stuff, and then maybe I can shed some light on that in the future. But overall, I'm very happy with these changes, because keep in mind, this was supposed to be a minor update, which means the big one is still coming down the road. So there's time to fix things like Terry's stand fierce range or crouch fierce range even better. And in the meantime, you got a plus on block normal, which is gigantic. And if this fireball works better in the zoning game, those are 2 insane boons for Terry. Is it going to push him into S tier? Probably not, but you know what? At this point, we'll take all the help we can get. Peace out, everybody.